think about it anymore. You can sort of automate the footwork, because instead of thinking, oh, I need to put my foot here and then I need to turn the other one and then I've got to do this, your feet will just already know a lot of different patterns. Your brain will have burned into the muscle memory all these different options, and so all you actually have to think about is, I need to be over there facing that way, and you'll just be there. And you don't have to think about it anymore. And the only way we get there is by practicing a lot of different weird things with our feet and making them learn how to do it. So that's kind of the big background on why we dug into this, why we got into doing footwork so hard, and why we do these 18 billion different weird foot patterns that are not necessarily exactly what you're doing in a fight. I have my notes here, so I don't forget important things. Next thing normally here is where I lead everybody through a bunch of warm-ups, but I think most or all of you just did a whole bunch of those with booming.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about them a little bit, but we don't have to do nearly as many as we might normally. One of the big things I suggest everyone work on, because it underlies a lot of things, is squats. So if you're going to do these at practice, before you start digging in, do some squats. And the goal is ass to grass. You want to be able to just sit right down. But if you don't have that, if this is all you've got, then great. Do those. And get better at them until you can do a little more.
So as a safety key, remember that don't bend over as much. Try to keep your back no more bent than your shins. That to keep your knees safe.
And we want your knees to track over the top of your feet. You don't want them coming in or going out to the side. That's how you hurt your knees. And so yes, when we're keeping our heels flat on the ground, you are going to get a little bit of forward motion, but still kind of keep your chest up as best as you can.
Yeah, keep your chin up.
We're not doing this. Another good one to work on that will help with all of those side-to-side motions we're going to get into with ladder drills, side squats. Put your feet out and it helps build up these little stabilizers on the side of your knees. So again, its goal is to be able to get all the way down here and just up and down across. But if you can only get here, great. As long as you are working and you are feeling effort to do it, then you are doing the work, and it'll get better with time.
And if you don't mind being on the video, you're more than welcome to spread it out over here.
The other one we do to sort of start shifting into that balance work, and you're gonna hear me harp a lot on keeping weight in the balls of your foot. So we also do squats up on the balls of our feet. Now that our heels are up, your spine actually can stay pretty much vertical. You come all the way down and back up, staying on the balls of your feet the whole time. So this is a good one for trying to start building that balance. And it'll help you know if you're in your good vertical stance that we're going to talk about next.
At the very end of this one, push up a little.
Yeah.
Push up on your toes.
If you're not already up on your toes at the top, push all the way up. And you can kind of relax them a little on the way down and then all the way up. So these are good to just, it gets the blood flowing, gets things stretched out a little bit before you start running into exercise. So next, we're going to talk about getting your nice basic body stance that you want to use while doing all of these ladder drills. And the point of it is to be vertical and balanced. A lot of words we're going to hear a lot. If you think about your body parts, your hips are a big heavy body part, your torso is a big heavy body part, your shoulders, your head, they're big heavy body parts. To balance them, you want them in a nice straight line, just stacked on top of each other. So a lot of us, by nature, we line up in a stance and we're trying to do this, but it's all forward. So you want to get back. And then it is hard to see with all of the armor, but sort of the final key that a lot of people need to get truly vertical is take your hips and just ever so slightly tuck them under, point that tailbone straight at the ground. Because otherwise, when it sticks out, we call this duck butt, because it looks like the little tail on the duck sticking out. It inherently sort of tips everything forward. So when you are able to get your hips tucked tucked under, your body on top of that, your shoulders on top of that, your head on top of that, you should kind of feel everything click into place. And suddenly it takes no ab effort, no core work to actually just stay in a vertical line because it's there. My quads are the only thing doing anything right now to just hold me in this little mini squat. Which is another part of our stance, is while we're being balanced, we don't want to be up in straight legs. It's hard to move up here. To make everything nice and smooth, we want to live in sort of a small squat. I call it your happy squat. It's this happy small amount of squat that you can just stay in all day long. So it doesn't need to be way down here. It's just a little, just enough to loosen up your hips, let them tuck under. And if I'm at home teaching our fighters, we're going for a heel-toe distance this way and hip width apart. I understand there's going to be a lot of different stances here. So if your primary fighting stance is more square or is something else, then you may need to adapt to something that fits what you're doing. But we find these sort of slightly offset, square, hips forward, especially for doing these drills, you really do need to be forward. The sideways stance won't work for these. That'll be something different. But, so everybody, go ahead and get your feet somewhere in a comfortable stance for you. If in doubt, you can just copy what we're doing. Heel toe, hip width apart. We're all going to get down in that little happy squat. Tuck hips under. See if you can find that just perfectly relaxed, effortless, balanced, vertical position. Those of you that do this at home with me all the time, if you want to help look around and check people.
And if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. Make sure, because this is not only we're just filming for everyone else, but the idea on this is that you can flow. So if you're everything we're showing, if your butt tilts out, look where my shoulders are. So that's why we want to chin up a little bit and a nice even stance where you're just dropping into it. So that just helps you good.
The burn in the quads is normal if you don't do this normally.
Yeah, they definitely put some stuff, exactly. So now everything is easy because you're like, yeah, see, that's compared to if you lean over a lot, then you start driving your shoulders in. And it's hard to pull that back, so you lose time.
So now that we're finding this stance, this is a thing you can go, this one's good to go home and practice in the mirror, not in armors, and actually see what your body is doing. But the next step from here, obviously, we're going to move now a little bit, but we're not going to move our feet yet. First, we're going to figure out how to take this entire stack from the hips up, and we're just going to slide it around all in one while keeping vertical. So as we come forward, your hips are naturally going to want to tilt back out. You end up forward. I'm exaggerating to make it obvious, but that's what happens. So you have to keep it under here as you go, and just let that back heel peel up if you need to get forward. The goal is to be able to come all the way forward and pick that foot up. And we come all the way backwards, which coming backwards, we will often get people that to feel balanced, stick the butt out and lean forward, or will overcorrect and throw shoulders backwards. So it's kind of a fine middle ground way of doing it. Keeping the hips under, all the way back.
Turn around as soon as towards the camera.
Hi, camera. Keeping our hips tucked, we're taking this whole stack as one piece and sliding it forward. Sliding it backwards. And while we're doing this, the goal, we want to stay perfectly flat and level with our head. We don't want to be straightening our legs so that we're coming up through the middle. We don't want to be dipping through the middle. So again, good things to practice at home in a mirror where you can like watch your own eyes and it's really obvious if you're coming up or down.
Watch the horizon, see that it's not bouncing when you're doing this motion.
Practice this, and when everything's nice and neat and balanced, you should be able to shift pretty far in both directions. Get a whole leg off the ground, and it doesn't matter. So everything's right here.
If everybody wonders what this is for, think about when you throw a shot. I just covered distance, and I want to be able to be strong enough to just drop back in, right? Or if you're falling forward, what you want to do is your arm covering this distance. And then your feet move as the shot goes.
This little shift, while it is super helpful while doing things in place, it also perfectly moves right into actually taking a step. I want to go forward, I can shift, and now we start moving. So that's what we're going to try and keep in mind as we start doing the drills. So whether it's moving forward, sideways, whatever direction we're going, you want to take the entire stack and start it moving in that direction, and then move your feet however you're going to move them. What we don't want to do is shift all of our weight over here to pick up this foot, and then shift it all that way to go that way. We're skipping that. We're just going straight that way. That kind of gets us into talking about drop steps, or many things that look like drop steps, some of which technically aren't. We're not going to worry about those details. But a drop step is effectively what we just showed. You just pick up your foot and let gravity do the work to go where you're going. And if you have initiated first, taking all of your weight, pushing it over that way, then when you pick up your foot, you're going to go even faster. So this saves us the time and telegraphing to our opponent of that shift, pick up, and go. That's a lot slower than go.
It also helps develop power. That's why they can do the drop step at bottom.
That. Let's see. So, doing all that, we already said we want to stay on the balls of our feet most of the time. It doesn't mean have your heels peeled up here. It will still look like your foot is flat on the ground, but the weight shift should be up towards the front. So that's where you're agile, that's where you're ready to move. So, beyond, yes?
Early on, is it beneficial to over tuck the hips?
A little bit, yes.
So I figure in
because-
combat, they'll just ease to old
Yeah,
habits.
because if you over tuck to start with, as you start to forget, it'll naturally come undone some and end up closer to the right spot. If you were actually going to be really good about like forcing it, don't overdo it then. But if you know yourself and you know it's going to release, then
And if you have a computer job or something like that where you're sitting at a desk all day, you probably are naturally here. And so just by doing that, you're going to be pushing it to a neutral position, not into an extended position.
yeah. So all of these little details, the balance, where our weight is in our feet, shifting all this around, that's what we're trying to keep in mind as we learn the ladder drills. Step one of ladder drill, you can cheat and you can stare at the ground and go, foot goes here, foot goes here. But as soon as you have that down, it's not going to benefit you unless you learn how to do it all clean, smooth, trying to stay nice and flat. Everything in here, the floor gets everything bent. So with that, I did want to say I had been planning to dig a little more into all of this shifting your weight around stuff, but he's going to teach a whole class on it at 2 o'clock. So I'm going to let him do the deep dive on that. And we're just going to keep it in mind as we actually start getting into doing some drills. So, we're finally going to move our feet. We're going to take some steps. First, we're going to learn some vocabulary. If you go out searching on the internet for different types of steps, you will see lots of different versions. A lot of people call different things a drop step or a shuffle step or this, that, and the other step. So I'm just establishing the terminology we use here so that at least for this, we'll all be on the same page. So when we say we're going to do a gather step, what we are referring to is I'm taking a step where my feet open further apart and then gather back together. Not all the way to touching, just back to where we started. So these very traditionally taught steps for a lot of things. But when I say gather step for the purposes of this class, it is feet go further apart and then come back together in stance.
Hurt me.
It becomes.
The goal for all of these is to be smooth, seamless motion. So that one, that is our gather step. The shuffle step is the inverse of that. We're going to bring our feet together and then move them apart. crab walk kind of a thing, or if you're going forward, doing shuffle step forward is weird, but you can do it. So gather step, apart, and then back together. Shuffle step, together, and then apart. What else do I need to do? Crossing steps. This is where our shuffle goes from just touching to we're actually crossing all the way over. We've all heard you're never supposed to cross your feet. It's a lie. You just have to know when and why and when to not. So we will, probably not today, probably tomorrow, get into things that actually cross our feet. And you can do that forward, but we tend to call it when we're going forward and backwards a passing step, which is just your normal walking step. Your feet are passing each other. When we say cross step, crossover step, we're almost always talking about cycles. So, all right, with those in mind, we're going to move on to the ladder, finally, learn some drills. As you can see here, we have two different types of ladders, because it does not have to be this fancy thing that you buy on Amazon for $10. It can also be paint on your yard. It can be sidewalk chalk on your driveway. We used electrical tape in our garage to make one, and those can actually be better sometimes, because this one, you can end up tripping over. Your foot gets caught on it. The one in the ground, you can't. So that's the advantage, but those wear off. You have to repaint them. So, your choice of maintenance. The first actual drill we are going to do, they're all super creatively named. This is the 2-foot run. And it is basically just a big long series of small gather steps. So I'm leading with my left foot, so I'm gonna step, gather, into the box, into the next one. So we try and just speed that up, all the way down. Then we turn around and switch legs, do the other one. So, everybody, line up, let's give it a try.
So, just so everybody knows, this is an actual ladder you can buy from a store. They're used for football, soccer, about every sport you can think of, boxing. You also can just spray paint it on the ground. You will trip on this. The goal here isn't that you have to worry about being in every one of these. I don't care if you step on the lines, I don't care. Just keep your feet small as you're doing. Good.
The ladder exists as a guideline.
And there's
to help you understand where your feet are supposed to go. It does not have to be perfect.
Yep. This is all just teaching small feet.
Try to keep your hips pointed forward.
Yep. So this is where,
You can.
while we're doing these, just constant loop in your mind of remember,
Really
I
right
gotta
now,
tuck my
you're just
hips.
learning it.
Vertical stack of the body.
Keep your eyes straight
Everything
like you're
flat.
watching your
Happy
phone.
squat. Try and stay on balls of the feet. All those little things.
All right, once you've done it with both feet, go ahead and stop. All right.
When you have a ton of different ladder drills to run through, you may be tempted to like skip doing the other foot, but you shouldn't. Because we all have, my stances, left foot forward. I will always be here, right? No. Stuff happens. You're going to end up with your other foot forward, and you need to be capable of moving from there and fixing that.
And this is why this ladder is tough.
Especially if you have tall grass and they don't really stick down. We trip on them a lot. Let's count the number of videos of me doing this.
Oh, the end one. The end one's gonna stick out.
Hell, I still just do that. This is why what's nice on these, you can also chalk this on a driveway.
You got me there.
And remember, there's a bunch of different things you can do. We just showed you both ways forward. You're going to do backwards too? Or?
I was going to say backwards till tomorrow, but
Perfect.
we moved through this pretty quick,
Yeah.
so maybe we'll get backwards today.
All right.
But the next one, we're going to run through and we'll go backwards if we get through before and still have time. The next one is our basic skier, is what we call it. We're going to start with 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Getting our nice little stance. And we're just going to do that gather step. So I'm stepping forward and out to the side, and then this foot comes into the box. And we go the other way. So again, most basic, if your brain is struggling with this, look down and just do the feet. If you're trying to incorporate everything, get that stance, go ahead and you can offset your feet into your stance if they're forward, backwards like mine. Keep everything level. Try to actually do a little jump.
Sir Sadb, are you switching stance as you do this?
I am not. This one, because the feet are staying here, they don't need to switch back and forth. So I'm moving at my diagonal and still keeping left foot forward, left foot forward, left foot forward.
Key to
And
remember.
then you can switch and do it all again with the other foot forward.
Also, key to remember is watch how she's falling. Her hip is, she literally lifting this foot. You should already be falling sideways. This is a fall. It's not put power, puts thing, it's reach out and pull. That's how we normally do it. Literally, I'm starting, that's why I point here. I point right in front of me. I'm like, I'm putting my foot right there. Oh, I'm falling right there. Okay?
This one is the smallest and easiest first application of what we talked about. Pull stack, just slide it. Whole thing slides this way. If you want to, you can keep your feet in place and delay the step to actually feel that weight shift. And then go. So, everybody give it a try.
One in the ladder goes out.
This foot's going to come first.
One in the ladder
Over
first.
here.
Ladder, the one in the ladder first.
There you go.
Move the same foot twice.
That's okay.
In the ladder out.
Don't worry about if you mess it up. One ladder, foot in the ladder.
One in the ladder goes out. Left foot goes first this time.
Yep, right there. Now reach that one outside. There you go. And then, yeah, all right. Bend those knees, though. Keep those knees bent.
So the one it's in the ladder moves first.
Yeah.
So yeah,
This one's a gather step. So it's gotta go out and then back together.
See what's happening? You're getting yourself in my corner all the time. There, yeah. Switch your feet as you're so. Switch your feet after this and do the other foot.
So
Later on, we do it back.
thank you.
Wasn't it? I gotta hurry up.
My brain was not like working with the ladder.
There's about 10 or 15 different
With the
things
ladder, there you go.
you can focus on.
There you go.
And you gotta just work out one side and then slowly come together.
Right, there you are. Now I'm looking here now. I gotta adjust. I gotta adjust. I'm making me adjust every time. I'm changing my target every time, right?
Sure. These take forever to work.
Yeah, that's I like trying to add and show. And I'm going to show you the same way. So go ahead. You're going to drop. See now all of a sudden you're making a turn every time. See what's happening? You're taking your whole body offline. But you get the idea. You're taking your whole body offline.
Inside goes out.
It's showing
You had exactly right.
I'm a left foot forward person, and now I'm thoroughly ready to work.
offense where it's like
Little cues to help
I'm
you
doing the right foot
remember
forward,
along the
and I
way.
know my brain doesn't know how to do this.
So when I'm here,
Just take away.
step here.
yeah, it's just and then once you get so used to
That way. One ladder.
you're still here. Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's like you're him off. Yeah. Later.
Nice center line, straight, same kind of thing.
In that pattern,
Yep, exactly.
and if I
Well, in out.
I'm in
Right, it goes out. There you go.
Yeah, we're doing white spear next, so that
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna cut it off here, move to our next one.
It's okay. That gives me a headache instantly.
But after the class, we're going to leave these out here. We can, everyone is welcome to keep trying stuff and we can keep working on it after we complete the official coursework of the day.
Yeah.
I know. Believe
I
me.
still have to do this to figure out which one
Yeah,
to
and
try.
but the good part about this is it starts making you both-footed. So you're not thinking about, oh, I'm in the wrong stance. You're never in the wrong stance, right? You may have picked the wrong opportunity to use that stance.
Moving on to the next one.
Yeah, perfect.
The next one is almost exactly the same. We're just going to make it a little bigger now. So that was our basic skier. This one's going to be our wide skier. And what we mean by that, I'll come to this one so I can't accidentally trip. So instead of starting in the middle of the ladder, I'm going to start over on the side of it. And then I'm going to do a much wider sideways step and get all the way to the other side. And the way you do that is not by like taking a giant leap. Realistically, it's by getting lower. The lower you are able to be, the wider a step you can actually take. Because think about it, if I'm up here, my leg only goes this far. But if I'm down here, now I get both legs, they can go out here. And we're shifting the weight, we're going, and then right at the end, right when this foot goes to leave the ground, I'm actually going to give a good push just with the toes to get you that extra little bit of oomph to the other side. And you will sometimes slide, especially on grass like this. But that brings us to a point of what we don't want to do here is overshoot. So you don't want to go and end up with your weight out here. We always want to end with our weight centered right between our feet. So actually, especially on these, it's a good one to do it. Stop, pause, make sure you're centered, make sure your stance is there before going on to the next one. Instead of speed demoning through it, go ahead and take that second to make sure you're there. And if you're every time falling over sideways, push a little less with that foot. If you're not really making, that was me overshooting. If you're not really making it and you're like falling this way, you might need to push a little harder. Or just make it smaller. If you can't actually get all the way from one side of the ladder to the other, come here. That's fine. And you can build it up over time. All of these drills are adjustable to whatever your body is capable of right now. You can adjust it up and down over time to match wherever you're at.
So your last piece on this one, just make sure that when you're doing this one, when you come over here, don't bring your feet together.
Right. That is the other common mistake is we, aha, I'm here. Nope, stance. You never want to like overshoot and come together or get linear. Sometimes people will be doing that and they'll come one foot in front of the other. End at that nice hip width apart.
If that means taking a shorter step, take a shorter step.
Yes, that means a shorter step, do it.
All right?
Better to do the correct technique on a smaller scale than doing totally wrong technique, like jumping 10 feet sideways.
Go ahead. Anybody want to follow her? We'll keep an eye. Yep. So remember not to keep that body nice and straight. There you go.
Don't bring your tail over the other.
That's
These are terminology. These are still just gather steps. Big ones now.
Try to tuck your butt under. Avoid trying to get right next to each other.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't make it all the way to the other side of the ladder. Just land on the ladder.
You've only been doing that for how many years? I'm a natural dribble. And remember when, there you go, good. Remember, don't bring your feet together. This is a gathering step when you step over. So try to keep a nice distance between your feet, just like if we're fighting.
Yeah, where you want to be when you're
There you go. Just like if you're fighting, where your feet are.
Like you can imagine that there's, you know, a yoga block or a chunk of wood or something in between your ankles. They can't come together.
Right, way out. That's actually pretty crazy why we learned it. But yeah, just do all these three. The best way to do it, I think, it's one of those. Same thing. See, your hips are staying square straight. The end of that is here.
All right. Last new one we're going to learn today. We're going to suddenly change from gather steps and do the same thing, but with a shuffle step. So we're back to 1 foot in the ladder, 1 foot out. And now instead of doing the gather step where we open our feet, we're going to just bring the feet together and apart. This is a much smaller step than anyone thinks it is. In order to move forward, what we're basically going to do is just shuffle and on a diagonal. I feel like I'm messing up here.
Go ahead, just do it. So remember that you're replacing the...
The step in front.
Yeah.
That's what I'm missing. So, for me with my left foot forward, when I'm going this way, this foot is back. It's going to come together with the other one. When I now want to shuffle that way, this foot's already in front. It's just going to step in front. Or if we want to do an even bigger motion, they can all step in front. That's what I was doing wrong.
Yes.
I was combining different drills. So, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and instead of coming together, we're moving forward, so it's just going to come in line forward and then open. So it's just this. Shuffle step.
Tell them to watch the angle of their feet.
Try and keep feet, hips,
All
knees,
forward.
all that good stuff forward. We don't want to be coming, and as we take this step, turning our foot across, because now, look where my hips are going. My opponent's still over there. This is not a good way to throw a shot.
Yes.
You want to stay, well yeah, and it pretty much inherently, when you start twisting like that, the butt starts going out. Get all this under here. This whole time, I'm ready to throw.
Good part about all of these exercises, they're used in PT a lot to help develop all of that tissue around your knee to be stronger. So we've found a number of people that have started with braces and like, I can't do this, and then a couple months later, no braces and they're doing it. So, and just like Boomy's class earlier, they went from bending this far to bending that far. But these types of things help us out.
So 1 foot in. Yep.
So, yeah.
Bring the other one
Again.
across.
That's the gather, right?
Mental check,
So now
this is
take
what we're doing
taking this
this.
one, put it right in front of the other
Outside
one.
foot
Hips
comes in.
under.
Yep.
Cut it
Vertical.
across.
Outside
Draw
foot comes in.
the
Let's say
feet.
here I am.
Smooth
So I
motion,
can take
happy
that front
squat.
foot, bring it across. There you go.
So 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Outside foot comes in forward. Go as slow as you need to. Outside foot. Outside foot.
And the key there is just, yeah, exactly. Just replace it. Right, here you are. Now look at me. There you are. You're happening there. So Mike Tyson does that in his 45. We'll show that one in a minute. That's okay.
So this time, the foot outside the ladder will always be the one to step first.
Yeah, just walk
So 1 foot next to each other, one
and then
inside,
you
one
can
outside
add
the ladder.
skip to it. You just
Off to the side. There
There
you
you
go.
go.
Just replace it.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep, exactly. Good. Yep. Red cross. Yep. Lift. Lift cross. There you go. Lift cross. Lift cross.
The
Check
outside
their
one comes in.
hips.
There you go.
Tailbone at
Outside
ground.
one. Back foot comes in here. Right.
No, and I'm going to show at the very end.
Front foot goes into the front. Yep.
So, because our stance has 1 foot forward and 1 foot back, as you're noticing, it's a slightly different move going right versus left. A bunch of these end up off like that because we're doing an offset stance.
That's the way. Awesome.
It's still
Oh, you're doing good.
football, and they do them with just
Outside
player
foot
side
comes in.
feet.
Outside foot comes outside. There you go.
We do these because this is how we fight.
Good.
Outside foot comes in.
To start and
There you
end.
go. Very good. So that's gather. There you go. Good. Yep.
Right back.
Gather.
Actually, like,
makes it a lot
diagram, like, steps.
This ends up almost into all your feet off the ground for the same time at the end, right? So as soon as you add that, the speed starts like watching it, the feet are already kind of like this.
Yes, there's a visual aid for you to put it out
Has
there.
everything.
Okay, I got you.
Thank you.
But you have to know it first before you.
Yep, exactly.
So, can we let's just talk about the difference between why you would use the difference between the, here's my question for you. What is the difference between using a gather step, a shuffle step, or a pass or a crossing step?
Okay, so the difference, or the sort of primary difference we can use
Yeah.
in these
No, but
different types of
it has to
steps
be, that's what I wanted
comes
to-
down to distance. We already sort of talked a little bit about that with bent legs versus straight legs. The same thing applies to actually just doing the steps. If I'm doing a basic gather step where I just reach my foot out, I can go about that far. If I'm shuffling it, it goes a little further. And if I do a full-on cross, I can do this whole ladder in like 3 steps. And just inherently go further. Because if you think about it, if this foot is planted and I'm moving this one, there's a limit, even if I do a split, to how far I can go. When we change it to a shuffle step, now this one's not planted anymore. This becomes the planted foot. And I get to cheat this foot over to here and go if I need to. And for a crossing step, we're cheating, instead of planting this foot, we're cheating it even further. And then stepping. So you can try it just like sideways down the ladder and count how many it takes.
And you notice she's not bringing her feet together on the gather.
And then go back and do it with a shuffle. You can get a little further, you can get a little momentum. And then full on cross.
So let's show you in fighting, if I'm tracking her in fighting and I'm just gathering, that's what I know how to do. And we're just gathering for a few and then go ahead and throw a back step or a crossing step in.
We're tracking each other, and I do one of these. I'm suddenly ahead.
She got my corner.
If I do that around, we can go and suddenly I'm over here in 1 step. Where he's like, no, we were moving at this speed, what are you doing?
And it's easy, you can see that movement, but now you're adjusting here. They're essentially turning you, and they now at that point, as soon as they turn me, as soon as they make that big movement here, and if they make here, then they can, as I turn, they can come back. Now I'm stuck. They got me pinned and just turning.
All over.
Yeah, you see Mike Tyson do that with the 45 step.
So, why we learn 3 different types of steps that can make 3 different sizes is because in a fight, sometimes I only need to move this far. Sometimes I need to be way over there in 2 steps.
All right.
So, that is all of the drills we're going to learn for today. If you come back through the week, we're going to keep adding more on. Right now, we're going to leave these down, and if there's time before your class, you can keep trying them, and if you're feeling good about them, go ahead and do things like trying them backwards.
Yes.
All of them can go backwards. 2-foot run. We can do our little skier hop. I'm catching on the ladder. Shuffle backwards. To go backwards, just keep in mind anything where your foot was coming in front before, now it's got to go behind you. And going backwards is the #1 time that people start doing this because they're scared to fall over backwards. Fight the fear, embrace it. Stay upright as you go backwards. Don't do these, because this kills all of your momentum and ability to move backwards. As soon as you hard step it, you can't go anymore. So
So
thank
grab,
you
if
all
you have
for
questions,
coming
you want to
together.
learn a little bit, grab some people and see how it would work. Ask them how those steps work in a fight. And again, if you have to think about them all the time, it's going to be slower. But as soon as you know them so well, you don't have to think about them, and you're just thinking about where you need to be, it becomes much faster, and you're executed much faster.
The other thing is get some water.
Yeah, we have water on the table.
That's triple filter.